Is our final video for Unit 1. It's the 6th video in our series, and I'm going to cover 3 dimensional analysis problems, example problems in here. I'm not going to do all of them, but I figured the 3 will get you started, and as always, if you need help with any of these, please come see me. The thing I see most with these dimensional analysis problems, the difficulty tends to be on where to start. And so my problem-solving strategy on here is always to try and figure out basically what units you're going to end in, because that's going to help you, believe it or not, to know where you're ending is going to help you figure out where to start. So when we read through this problem, I want you to be thinking to yourself, what units should I be in when I'm finished with this problem? A troy ounce is equal to 480 grains, and 1 grain is equal to 64.8 milligrams. If the price of gold is $560 per troy ounce, what is the cost of 1 gram of gold? Okay, the price is $560 per troy ounce. According to this, by the way, it's a lot higher. But what is the cost is what I'm seeing. This is the question. What is the cost? So I know I'm going to be in dollars when I'm all said and done with this. So way over here, oops, didn't mean to do that. Way over there, I should be in dollars, right? Okay. So you need to think to yourself, what is the question asking? The cost of what? Well, it's the cost of 1 gram of gold. So I'm starting with 1 gram of gold. There we go. Now, there's one thing with the metric conversions. Let me back up a little bit. When we did metric conversions, I want you to notice that I always kept my units with my numbers. It's kind of like that no naked number rule. But on some of these, you're going to actually have to put a number, a unit, and a substance. And that's just, again, something to kind of get used to. We're trying to build problem-solving strategy skills here. And so I'm going to try and do that wherever that's applicable, okay? All right, so I then have to look through here, through my problem, and I'm looking for any kind of conversion factor, okay? Something that the problem has set equal to each other. So I see right here, 1 troy ounce is equal to 480 grains. There's 1. 1 grain is equal to 64.8 milligrams. There's another. Price of gold is $560 per troy ounce. There's a third. Those are all conversion factors for me. And what I'm looking for in that is to try and find anything that is closest to a gram of gold or something that can help me get from grams to money. So the first thing I see is milligrams. Milligrams in a gram, now that's a conversion I know how to do. So I'm going to take my grams and I'm going to convert them to milligrams. So I put my units on there first. A gram is larger than a milligram, so I'm going to put a 1 next to it, and I know it takes 1,000 milligrams in a gram. All right, so now I'm 1 step closer. My grams cross out. I'm in milligrams. And now I can use this conversion factor right here, because it tells me that 1 grain, okay, 1 grain, I'm going to put that on top, because I need those milligrams, the 64.8 milligrams, I need those on the bottom to get rid of my milligrams. Okay, now I'm in grains. Now I look back up here, and this tells me there's a troy ounce is equal to 480 grains. So my next conversion factor, I know I need grains down here, and it tells me there's 480. I'll put that there. And then it says 1 troy ounce. So I'm going to put 1 troy ounce on top. Okay, still getting 1 step closer. Again, look, my grams have crossed out, my milligrams have crossed out, my grains have crossed out, and now I'm in troy ounces. And my last conversion factor here tells me that $560 is 1 troy ounce. So my troy ounce now is going to cross out, and the last unit I'm in is dollars. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to multiply everything that's on the top, okay? And I'm going to divide it by everything on the bottom. And I do ask that you try this in your calculator, maybe pause this if you will, because I just want to make sure that you're using your calculator appropriately and using your parentheses appropriately, because you're definitely going to want to to do that. So in other words, if you're dividing by 64.8 and 480 grains, make sure that you put those in parentheses, okay? And I get, my calculator tells me 18.00, okay? And now this is where we go back and we look at the number of sig figs. Well, I know I've got 2 here. I've got 1 grain. Most conversion factors are considered exact. And if I do make that assumption, I'm going right back to my starting point that says 1 gram of gold. That's 1 significant digit. So I'm actually going to change this answer to $20 of gold. Okay? All right. Let's try another one. The average mass of a kernel of popcorn is 0.125 grams. If 1 pound is 16 ounces and 1 ounce is 28.3 grams, then how many kernels of popcorn are there in a half a pound of popcorn? Well, again, I hope you read that and you thought to yourself, okay, what unit do I need to be in when I'm done? And I see how many kernels of popcorn. That's the question. So I'm going to be in kernels when I'm done with this. And now you have to ask yourself, well, kernels of popcorn in what? And the answer to that question is 0.5 pounds. So my starting point is 0.500 pounds of popcorn. Okay, notice I put a number, a unit, and a substance there. Okay, conversion factor. Now I want to get out of pounds and 1 step closer to kernels. So I'm going to go back up here in my problem. And I'm going to look for my conversion factors. Okay, I see 1 pound is 16 ounces, right? There's 1. And I see a kernel of popcorn is 0.125 grams. There's another. And 1 ounce is 28.3 grams. All right, so I need to get rid of pounds. I know that. And so the only thing I can use here is 16 ounces. So I'm going to put 16 ounces on top is equal to 1 pound. Okay, so now I'm out of pounds and I'm in ounces. That's not what I meant to do. There we go. Next conversion factor. Okay, I know I need to get out of ounces now. So my ounces are going to be on the bottom. And it says, let's see here. 1 ounce is 28.3 grams. So my 28.3 grams goes on top. My ounces cross out now. I'm almost there. Okay, so now I'm looking at grams. Again, my pounds have crossed out, my ounces have crossed out. Now I'm looking at grams. And my last conversion factor tells me 1 kernel, which is what the unit I want. So I'm glad that one's going to be on top. And I'm going to put 0.125 grams on the bottom. All right, so I'm going to multiply everything on the top, and then I'm going to divide everything that's on the bottom. And my calculator tells me 1,811 kernels of popcorn. Now, here's where we go back and we look at our significant digits. Again, if I assume all of this is exact, like 1 pound exactly is 16 ounces exactly, then I would actually go back to the my starting point here, and I see 3 significant digits, which means I have to cut this off between the 1 and the 1. Well, that 1 is going to disappear and become a 0. And now I have 3 significant digits, just like my starting point. All right, last example problem here that we're going to do. Number 14. Now again, when we read through this, I want you to think about what units you're going to be in at the end. You have 15 grams of hemoglobin in every 100 milliliters of your blood. 10 milliliters of your blood can carry 2.01 milliliters of oxygen. How many milliliters of oxygen does each gram of hemoglobin carry? Well, when I'm done with this, I see how many milliliters of oxygen. That's the question. So I know that those are the units I need to be in when I'm done. So here's where you ask yourself, okay, milliliters of oxygen in what? Well, I see each gram of hemoglobin. So I'm starting with a gram of hemoglobin. Okay, notice I put a number, a unit, and a substance. And with this problem, actually, that's pretty important because I see here I've got milliliters of blood and I've got milliliters of oxygen, and I don't want to confuse those two. So I'm going to go back in my problem and I'm going to find all my conversion factors. I have 15 grams of hemoglobin with every 100 milliliters of my blood. 10 milliliters of blood can carry this much oxygen. Looks like this whole problem is just conversion factors. And that's it. All right. So I know that I want to get out of grams of hemoglobin. So that's what's going to be on the bottom, grams of hemo. And I'm going to look up here, and I've got 15 grams of hemoglobin in 100 milliliters of blood. Okay, so 15 grams of hemoglobin on the bottom and 100 milliliters of blood on top. Okay, next conversion factor. I want milliliters of blood on the bottom because that's what I'm trying to get rid of. And I see 10 milliliters of blood carries 2.01 milliliters of oxygen. So I'm going to put 10 down here and 2.01 milliliters of oxygen on the top. And now I'm already in the unit that I need. Again, I'm going to multiply everything across the top and divide everything that's on the bottom. And my calculator tells me 1.34 milliliters of oxygen. Now it's time to go back and look at our significant digits. Now, there's a couple different things, and it really depends on the rules that are set up by your classroom. But if we assume all my conversion factors are exact numbers, then I would have to go back to my 1 gram of hemoglobin. But if you look carefully, it says each gram of hemoglobin. So how many sig figs does each have? Well, it doesn't really. It's not very clear. Normally what happens in that type of problem, we assume 3. Okay, so if you don't really have sig figs, if they say per day or each gram or something like that, you always just go to 3 significant digits. Now, if we did go to the conversion factors, that would take us down to 2. But again, it depends on the classroom rules or how your teacher wants to clarify it. For me, we're going to assume that the conversion factors are exact. Okay? All right, I hope you have found this helpful. And again, come see me if you need to. See you soon.